Good evening, traders, account builders, and everyone in between. It's Ant-Man here, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing a couple of plays that I might be watching for tomorrow. I actually haven't done a nightly scan in quite some time, and that's mainly because I usually play the morning gappers. But this weekend, when I was going through charts and news and whatnot, one ticker did catch my eye, so I decided to dig a little deeper, do some more research, and do a scan this weekend, see what I could come up with, see what I could find, see what's happening, what's popping, what's shaking. Now, keep in mind, this is a preliminary watch list, which means that tomorrow morning, once my gap scanner populates with all the morning data, I'll have a much better idea if these stocks that I'm going to talk about here will actually end up making the final cut or not. There could be better plays presenting themselves tomorrow morning. So, like I said, it's up in the air, but these are definitely four plays that I'm going to at least review again tomorrow morning and compare them to what's available on my gap scanner and see what we got. And whether or not they end up on my watch list or not, if one or you or some of you decide to watch one or a couple of them and some of you can put on a nice trade and benefit from this, then it's all good. So with that said, let's get into it. The first one here that I have, the one that actually caught my eye this weekend was PCG. If you remember back a couple of weeks, I think it was this mess over here, actually a couple of months back in November. They got slammed when the California wildfires were raging. PCG took the heat, no pun intended, for a lot of the California wildfires. They were blamed, and a lot of responsibility was placed on them. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if it was justly placed on them or not, or if they were used as a scapegoat. I didn't get that far into the data. I just know what I read superficially, and it was certainly enough bad news to cause this massive gap down and subsequent sell-off. So PCG is in the news again. I read a headline late Friday night that PCG is considering filing for bankruptcy. Whenever a stock brings out the B word, it's never a good thing. Investors will lose their hats. It will incite panic. And if we go to the intraday time frame on this, you can see Friday evening. Just bear with me one moment while I pull this in for you. There we go. You can see Friday evening right around 5 or 6 Eastern, when that headline came out, this thing just absolutely plummeted. And that's what caught my eye this weekend, was this play here. And the actual ticker PCG caught my eye because I remember them in the news and being very much in play stock back in November, and me personally taking a few very nice trades on PCG back then. So this is something that I definitely will be looking at tomorrow morning. After this 32% dump here, it did put in a bottom here at the 1650 level, and it retraced quite strongly, finding a little bit of overhead resistance here at this 1970 level. If you follow this blue line over to the left, you see, it's maybe hard to see in the recording, but you have this maroon and this teal. This is the bid in the ask price right now. So it kind of gives me an idea where the stock has traded last, even though it hasn't moved yet. It'll be moving in tomorrow morning, obviously. But this was the last activity on the price, right here at this 1970, 1975 level. 20 being a very key support and or resistance level, a very key psychological level, a very key whole round number, and a very key level where a stock becomes a quote-unquote big boy stock, where a lot of the bigger institutions will play a stock when they become a $20 stock, as opposed to when they're under 20 some of the bigger money institutions will not play them. They still consider them penny stocks, even though if you really want to get technical about it, any stock over $10 is no longer a quote unquote penny stock. But like I said, some of the bigger money hedgies and institutions wait for the $20 mark to really start playing a stock. So that's why I have this highlighted in purple. This will probably be a very, very important level tomorrow. And whether it gaps up or gaps down over it, I have a plan either way. As you can see, I'm going to the daily chart. If I zoom all the way out, you can see this $20 level going back pretty much to day one on the stock, which is like almost 40 years ago. What is that? 1985. Okay, so about 30 years ago, you can see how well respected here, all the way across. Then it had its nice little run up, and as we pull it back in, $20 became relevant again. So you can see it's a very, very, very important level, and I will be watching that level closely tomorrow. In addition to that level, depending on what the market does, of course. Right now, futures are up, as you can see right here on my futures board. The S&P E-mini futures are up about a little over 8 points. The Nasdaq futures are up about 23 points. So right now there is a slight gap up, and to be honest, what I want to see tomorrow is just a slight gap up. Maybe slightly flat open to slight gap up. I don't want to see any huge gap ups or any huge gap downs tomorrow. Nice little gap up will be perfect for what I have in mind. So with that said, let me get back to the intraday time frame here. So, like I said, last tick on this was 1970. If this gaps up tomorrow, it might break this 20. So I actually don't know if it's going to be strong enough to get back up to this 2175 level. So let's see on the daily what we have. Yeah, there really is nothing from where we're at now up to this 2175 level. So who's to say what's going to happen with this? There are probably tons of shorts that are piled in this, and after this gift they got on Friday after hours, this could very well pop on short cover tomorrow to this 2175 level. If it is showing weakness, maybe the 21 level. But that's, it's going to be a thing of let's just see what the market does tomorrow morning and see what the actual price action does tomorrow morning on this. So that's the first one I will be watching tomorrow. I will be most likely watching tomorrow morning. Next one on my list here is Qcom, Qualcomm. And Qualcomm, what I will be looking for, as you can see, they put in a nice little doji here, little hammerish, small-bodied candle. This is a good zoom right here. Let's pull this in. Tomorrow, if the market does gap up, what I will be looking for is a test of this 50 SMA area right here, which is lined up very nicely with the 58 whole dollar area, nice round whole dollar. And you can see if you run to the left here, you can see how many times 58 held as resistance, or how many candles wicked out into 58. Okay, if we do have a bit of a push in the market tomorrow morning, and this does get above 58 and above the 50 SMA, I will be looking for topping action at the 58.50 area, so that you can see how many of these wicks topped out or couldn't get up to this 58.50 level. So tomorrow, if there is a small gap up in the market tomorrow, I will be looking for a morning pop and an afternoon drop, an afternoon sell-off, and hopefully that will help my trade plan come to fruition on Qcom if I do decide to follow this tomorrow morning. Next one I have for you is JPM, JP Morgan Chase. This one here, if there's a gap up tomorrow morning, what I want to see is if this can Right now, it's at this just shy of just a few hair shy of 101 right now, and 101 is just about previous high, and a couple wicks right here touched it, so it is a nice level here on the daily chart. What I will be looking for on this, if it does gap above this 101 level, is a run into the 102.40, 102.50 area for some topping action and a rollover. If this does get above the 102 level, I don't see it getting up to the 50 SMA here, 104.50. So I will be watching the whole numbers and the half numbers, 103, 103.50, which also does coincide with these wicks and candle bodies in this area right here. So that's what I have for you on JPM. And the last play that I'm not really going to get too much into, and I will tell you why in just a second, is Nflx. And the reason why I'm not going to get too much into Nflx is because it was covered in the Hyperscan video watch list, and my plan on Nflx is pretty much on par with the Hyperscan plan on Nflx. So if you're interested in that and you're a Trick Trades member, watch the Hyperscan video watch list, and that will fill you in on exactly what we're looking for on Nflx. If you're not a member, I'll just do a quick rundown. What I will be looking for on Nflx is it is extended here. Had this nice run up, had like a 30% run up, and it closed on high, so it is looking strong. However, so we have two contradicting pieces of information. We have a close on highs, but we do have an overextension here. And we have a market that's gapping up, so tomorrow this could pop in the morning. It's very possible. Personally, I would love for this to run this 310 level and just fail it all the way back down. I don't really know if it's going to do that. I don't think it's going to do that. But we'll see what happens with it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on Nflx, and yeah. So those are the four that I will be looking at tomorrow morning, in addition to the morning gappers, and from those basket of stocks, I will then formulate my final watch list. So that's all I got for you right now. Any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comment area below, or you can always hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @TheTonyManji. Please like and subscribe the video, and if you enjoy the content, and if you want to learn how to formulate kick-ass trade plans such as these, swing on by TrickTrades.com. I will leave a link in the description below. Come by and check us out and see what we're all about. And I think that's all I got for you right now, so I will catch you all on the flip-flop. Ciao.